Good afternoon and welcome back to your afternoon 5-State Farm Report. Danielle Drotzman, your host here for 570 WNAX. Thanks for tuning in here today on this Friday, and it's Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. So hope you guys are all having a great day so far and ready for the weekend. Well, as we kick off your program here today, we are visiting with Lara Moody. She is the Executive Director of the Institute for Feed Education and Research. So, Lara, we're excited to get you on here today, and thank you for joining us on WNAX. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm coming to you from just southeast of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so closer to the East Coast, but it's a lovely morning here, and very happy to be on with you.
Absolutely. Well, we are excited to get you on. So we're going to be talking about, I guess, iFeeder. And maybe before we kind of get into this interview, maybe just fill us in on who is iFeeder.
Sure. iFeeder was started back in 2009. We are a 501c3. That means we're a nonprofit that does not do policy work. And we were started by the American Feed Industry Association. So that's the trade association that supports the animal feed and pet food sector for the United States. They primarily are the policy and regulatory arm and do a variety of engagements. But iFeeder was really created as a way to do additional research and education projects for the feed industry and the pet food industry that support not only the industry itself, but support some of the needs of our animal production partners that we collaborate with. And so since 2009, iFeeder has been doing a variety of projects, anything from how we might clean out a feed mill if there were something like PRRS or even African swine fever if it were to come to the United States, to how we help reduce the footprint either of water or nitrogen loss in feed and animal production systems, or into the work that we're doing now that we're going to talk a little bit about, which is really working on the resiliency of the feed supply chain for the industry to ensure that we have strong food security here in the United States.
Gotcha. And I mean, so you mentioned, we're going to be talking a little bit about some reports that are coming out, and maybe you have some sub-reports that so maybe just kind of fill us in on those reports and I guess what kind of the purpose of those were.
Yeah, so really it was after COVID when we had so many supply chain disruption issues that the animal feed industry and pet food industry really realized that one of the challenges that we have is a very concentrated supply chain for vitamins and amino acids. And the concentration of that supply chain is primarily in China. That in and of itself is not the problem. The quality of ingredients that we get from those production processes and what we obtain from China is fine. That's not the challenge. The challenge is that we are now really down to a sole source of some very key ingredients that we use within the United States. Not only for animal feed, but the vitamins and amino acids that we're talking about here are the exact same vitamins that perhaps you take with your morning breakfast, or that are used to fortify different foods that we consume ourselves as humans. And so after COVID, we started to realize the supply chain issue, and we really needed to be able to better inform policymakers on what the root of the problem was, the scope of the challenge. And to do that, we assessed the supply chain and were able to tie it back to its implications for food security, because obviously if there are some feed ingredients that we supplement with in the animal feed space that we suddenly don't have available, then they have a real potential to have a production impact for our animal agriculture. And so the report really does a deep dive into what those potential impacts are and what the scope of the supply chain disruption could be, and why we think there's potentially a disruption, so that our trade association that we work closely with, AFIA, could take that information and use it to do some advocacy and inform policymakers.
Gotcha. And I guess that will be released in November. It's something you're currently working on still?
No, actually, the report is currently available.
Gotcha.
We released that report in November of 2025, but that was a 200-plus page report. And so we knew that for our different animal production peers and even those in the feed industry. Not everybody's going to be interested in all of the information within the report. And so we ended up generating a set of species-specific reports, and then we've been using those species-specific reports to engage, for example, the National Pork Producers Council or the National Chicken Council or the National Cattlemen and Beef Association, so that we can give them information that's provided directly for them on the issues that they're most interested in. Those reports are now available. We just released the last of those 6 sub-reports on dairy and beef, but we also have reports available for turkey, layer, swine, and broiler production.
Gotcha. So, I mean, could you maybe just give a broad overview of kind of what you would maybe find in one of those reports? Or
sure. So I think, the best thing to do, I think, is to let's pick a species, right? So South Dakota, obviously, a swine production state. And so if we look at some of the findings for swine, 2 key ingredients for swine production would be lysine. That's one of the main amino acids that are used in swine production, and vitamin B, in particular vitamin B12. Lysine and vitamin B, 100% of those ingredients that we use in feed are being imported from China right now. If we were to, and to be clear, vitamin B and lysine, so there's some of those nutrients in feedstuffs that we provide, right? There are elements of lysine in a soybean meal, for example, and there's some B12 in some of the feedstuffs that we provide, but we supplement, for a variety of reasons, lysine and B12 on top of the other feedstuffs that we utilize. And that's because over time and research and analysis, right, the nutritionists have realized that we can do improve productivity, improve animal health, improve feed conversion efficiency. There's all these benefits that we get from providing supplemental lysine and vitamin B12. And so we essentially said, what happens if we start to lose the ability to supplement lysine or vitamin B12? And so some of the impacts that we've identified is that normally it could take, on average, 131 days to bring a hog to market. But if we lose lysine supplementation, suddenly it's 174 days to bring a hog to market. If we think about something like the meat yield per animal, which of course is pretty crucial to profitability for the producers, we go from 216 pounds on average of meat yield available for an animal to 153 pounds of meat yield available for an animal. So again, it's a very significant drop-off, right, in the amount of meat that we're getting per animal. So when you start to see things like that, you can say, one, it's going to take us more resources to produce these animals. It has a significant impact on profitability at the farm. And then bigger picture, it has the real potential to be a food security issue for the United States. And so the reports, each of the reports dives into where we're importing those different vitamins and amino acids from, why it is that we've gotten that concentration. Generally, it has to do with the overbuilding of capacity on China's part, and they're undercutting the other producers of these ingredients in different regions, and then what the impacts on animal agriculture. One of the areas the report does not go into is what we should do about it. That's really more of a policy issue, and so the American Feed Industry Association is working with Congress and the current White House administration on ways that we can mitigate that challenge.
Gotcha. So, vitamins and minerals definitely are very important to the animal for sure. So I guess that's kind of all I have for you. But, I mean, where could we learn more information, I guess, if we want to take a look at some of the reports and stuff?
Yeah, so iFeeder has a great information source. You can go to ifeeder.org. You can find the reports on the main page. If you don't want the 200-page report, there's a lovely 12-page summary. And if you don't even want the 12-page summary, you can go find one of the specific species reports.
All right, Laura, thank you for joining us here today. It was great to have you on and hear about all the things you guys are working on. Again, Lara Moody, she is the Executive Director of the Institute for Feed Education and Research. So with that, we'll take a quick break here. We'll take a look at some ag weather, and then here at the bottom of the hour, we'll look at your markets with your commodity wraps. So stay tuned to 570 WNAX.